Hello, and welcome back to Kim Reads as we continue with Straight On Till Morning. Wendy's thoughts as the drying off girls. Wendy's thoughts as the water closed above her head were a strange mix of things. Primarily, it was panic and survival, her body thrashing and arms circling, mouth tight, trying to keep her from breathing in the water that was all around her. And obviously, her mind touched a bit on a rapidly approaching and inevitable death. There was also a surprise amount of disappointment. She and Tinkerbell had started to make a connection, even if it was just over a common goal. The fairy had even given her pixie dust to fly. And then the little thing had revealed herself to be no better than any of the other heartless members of Neverland. Pirates, crystal monsters, murderous mermaids. She was utterly selfish, only concerned with her own problems and adventures. Wendy couldn't hold her breath any longer. She opened her mouth and the water was suddenly clear of mermaids and the weight holding her down was gone. She popped to the surface like a child's toy bath, free of all hands, tails, mouths, and other impedimenta. Coughing and sputtering as quietly as she could, she sucked down a great, painful gulps of air. No one attacked her. She kicked to the side of the lagoon, muscles screaming. Whatever had happened, she had gone out of the water before the mermaids returned. She was almost too weak to pull herself onto the ledge and scrape the sides of her legs raw while scrambling for a good foothold. Once finally up, her muscles and lungs desperately wanted to lie there and recover. But Wendy forced herself to roll until she was a good arm's length away from the water and clear of any sneaky vines. She took many amazing breaths while looking up at the sky. It was intense deep blue, and the palm fronds were black against the sun. It was just bliss to be alive. Even the little clouds of gnat hovering around her face didn't bother her. Anyway, they were sort of cute, with what looked like giant red and yellow feathers trailing from their heads and behinds. Eventually, she recovered enough to sit up. Salt water poured indelicately out of her nose and down the back of her throat, burning it even more. Water sloshed in her ears dizzyingly. If she had known better, with any way where her head was racing, she would have thought there was salt water up her brains too. The mermaids were all still there, rolling in the water, lashing their tails and whipping up and foaming and fighting each other. "It's mine," the purple one cried. She was no longer so queenly or stately upon her bolder throne. She was in the water with the rest of them, wide-mouthed, even wider than Toothy Glee, holding up what looked like a piece of fruit. Something oranges, but elongated like a banana. "No, it's mine." The red-haired one leapt out of the water like a dolphin and snatched it out of her hands. Two more mermaids dove after her, and so the rolling began. Tinkerbell hovered out of harm's way above the water, shaking her hand disgustingly. She had another piece of fruit in her hands, a small reddish thing, rather like an oversized cherry. Now, Wendy understood. Legends told of how mermaids craved fruit because there was nothing like it in the sea. They would trade pearls and gems and long-lost treasures for a single apple, according to the old sea chantings the boys used to sing. Tinkerbell had managed to distract the mermaids and make them on each other by pelting them with bananas, like a mean child at the zoo. "Oh, well done," Wendy tried to say aloud. It came out like a rasping whisper. She coughed, more and more came out, along with a thin trickle of blood. Nothing serious, she decided, being a practical girl not prone to the fights of panic or hypochondria. It wasn't tuberculosis or cancer, it was just the result of her throat being scraped raw. But the taste and feeling of it combined with salt water threatened her already turbulent stomach. Despite the whisper, Tinkerbell, with her fairy ears, had heard what she had said, or at least caught the tone of it. Her eyes widened in surprise. "That was very clever. Very, very clever," Wendy said, her voice slowly gaining volume. "Good show." Tinkerbell blushed and gave a timid smile. The purple-haired mermaid below took the distraction as an opportunity. She leapt high in the air to snatch the cherry thing the fairy held. Tinkerbell buzzed straight up out of reach, dropping the fruit as blast as she went. The mermaid caught it and laughed with glee. Wendy glared daggers at the sea creatures as she wrung out her dripping, tangled, sodded hair. These were the majestic beings she had imagined brushing. "You're quite literally the worst," she growled. "The worst." The purple mermaid took a salacious bite out of the cherry and grinned at her wickedly. The rest of the mermaids calmed down. The last of the fruit had been torn into several pieces and devoured by the lucky or vicious ones. "We were just having a little fun," the pink-haired mermaid said with a pout. "Fun, that's all," the green-haired one said, floating on her back. "We were only trying to drown you," the red-haired one added innocently. "As I said," Wendy said flatly, "the worst." Tinkerbell flew over her, careful to avoid the reaching hands of the mermaid. She blanched when she saw the raw skin and sheets of blood on the human girl's legs. Wendy grimaced and ripped off a white strap from her already bedraggled skirt and carefully dabbed at the wounds. The salt water was, if not sterile, then at least safer than anything out of the jungle. Once her legs were clean, she wore the makeshift bandage in two, wrapped one around each leg, and tied them neatly. "We came here to help you finding your friend, you know," she said when she was done, "and saving your land. We know Peter Pan's shadow is and came looking for him so we could get it back. And also, but it didn't matter that their entire world was being threatened by psychotic pirates. The mermaids only heard or cared about one thing. Peter Pan." They paused whenever they were doing at his name, bobbing in the water like floats on a fishing line. "Why didn't you say you were here for Peter Pan?" one of them asked. "I did!" Wendy barked angrily, so unlike herself that Tinkerbell flew a couple of feet away in surprise. "You were too busy trying to lure me into the water to listen. You horrible, murdering fishwives!" "We didn't know it was about Peter Pan." They began to dreamily glide and drift through the water. "We know he lost his shadow. He hasn't been the same without it. So sad, our Peter. We'll help him get it back, and then he'll be happy again." Wendy gritted her teeth, trying to control her temper. "All right, you can start by telling us where Peter is. You were told where he came from." "We were told he came here." "He did," the red-haired mermaid said, as serious as any toddler. They're telling the actual truth. "He always comes here when we're sad. We cheer him up. We make him happy again." Tinkerbell grew red in the face, literally red, literally glowing, and her wispy brows became thunderbolts. "All right, yes, good, whatever," Wendy said quickly. She didn't want to hear any more, either, honestly. What a little harem here in Neverland. "What was that?" "He came when the first moon was a tiny sickle," the green-haired one said thoughtfully, putting a fetched finger on her lip, deep in thought. "And ickle stickle," the red-haired one giggled. "And he left just 2 mornings later." "No time at all with us this time," one pouted. "So boring, so sad." "All right, please stop, Tinkerbell. How long ago was that? I'm afraid I'm quite unfamiliar with the phases of moons around here." Moons, I suppose. For all she knew, time ran backward or made no sense at all. Tinkerbell cocked her head, thinking, then jingled 4 times. 4 days ago? That's bad news," Wendy said grimly. "He could be anywhere by now. Did you mention all where he was going?" "Yes," the purple one hair said grandly, trying to regain her original pose. "He said he was going to petition the first." At this, everything became silent. The mermaid stopped chattering and bobbing. The jungle noises faded into the background. Tinkerbell shuddered. Even the waterfall seemed subdued. "All right, then, that's something," Wendy said, trying to sound bright despite the apparent dire connotation of the mermaid's word. "And where do we find the first?" "Hopefully," one mermaid said as she turned away a lazy barrel roll, "you don't, and they never find you." "Helpful, as always," Wendy stood up to wring out the rest of her skirts. Thank you for the information, and who knows, if it turns out to be useful, I may not direct the pirates to your lagoon after we've dealt with them. Oh, you're so mean, the pink-haired mermaid cried in dismay. Really? Are you kidding me? Wendy demanded. She felt a little tap on her head. Tinkerbell squeezed her finger and shook her head. It's not worth it. Wendy realized the little fairy was right. If Tinkerbell, who had just as much, if not more, reason to hate these mermaids than Wendy, could walk away, also was she. Good day, she growled with as much dignity as one could muster. Feeling her dress drip-drop and tatter and stream behind her, her legs scantily bare but for the bandages that wrapped around them. Wendy marched into the jungle, unsure of the direction she was going, that was away from these mermaids. Besides, her was someone who might not be her friend yet, but at least who didn't seem to want to kill her, which was beginning to seem like a very rare thing indeed in Neverland. And that's the end of that